Hello. So coming up here to speak about confidence when you're still only a teenager seems a little bit ambitious. And to tell you the truth, all my confidence right now is kind of 3,000 miles away back in New York City. But here I am on a stage in London in this red circle. And I'm gonna have to coach as much as that confidence back across the pond. Any confidence that I have today has come from three things: finding supporting individuals, embracing the word no, and knowing that the cost of doing nothing is too great. So the first time I was pushed to do something more happened when I was around 8 years old. And I was sitting in class, dreading having to read out loud later, but for the time, my teacher was just passing out our tests. And it was science, and I love science, so I wasn't nervous. But then I didn't get my paper back. And I don't know how it is here, but in America, that is never a good sign. So me and a few other kids were told to stay after class. So after class, I stood at my teacher, Miss J's desk, and she held up a piece of paper. And she said, "I don't know who this is." And of course, at the top of it read, "Threemily." One of my best friends, Damien, quickly replied, "Oh, that's just Emily? You see, sometimes she's Emily and sometimes she's Threemily. I think it's so cool." And I was trying not to laugh, and to tell you the truth, I think my teacher was too. But then she turned to me, looked me in the eye, and said very seriously, "Emily, this is your name. Dyslexia cannot be an excuse. You can do more than this." So I thought, wonderful. At this point, I knew I had to work on reading out loud, and not only that, I had to obviously work on my writing as well. But if I was going to do it, I was going to make it as fun as possible for myself. So with graph paper, colored pens, and Harry Potter, I got to work. The vertical lines in the graph paper helped to steady my eye, and the switching colored pens helped my writing and also made my notebook very artistic. And I credit Harry Potter for helping me to speak out loud, because every single night without fail, my mother and I would go back and forth reading a chapter out loud. And while she quit when she saw the size of the 5th book, and my voice was completely strained by the end of the month, at the end, I was more confident about reading in class, and I went from fearing it to volunteering to do so. Miss J, my teacher, she didn't have to say something. But because she knew I was capable of more, and because she pushed me to work harder, I overcame my form of dyslexia and I overcame my challenges. And I began to love to read, and I read anything I could get my hands on. I read books, newspaper articles, magazines, and even blogs online. And these blogs introduced me to interesting people all around the world who were doing amazing things. But then one day when I was 13, I stumbled on a very particular blog about a young mother and her son, Trip Roth, who was born with an extremely severe case of EB. Now EB, or Epidermolysis Bullosa, is a rare genetic connective tissue disorder that, due to a lack of a vital protein that acts like Velcro that keeps your skin together, the top layer of Trip's skin easily disconnected from the bottom layer of his skin, which left wounds all over his body. This meant that even putting on clothes or even getting a hug would cause his skin to rip or tear. EB even creates wounds on the inside, so Trip even needed a trach to breathe. What Trip went through every single day was unimaginable. That he still laughed, smiled, and played his little drum set. And as his mom would sing, Trip's spirit seemed to soar off the screen with his big cheeks, wide smile, and bright, beautiful eyes. He battled so hard, and so did his mother. Trip inspired me, and although I never spoke to him and we never met, his powerful courage reached into my heart and made me want to do something, anything at this point, to find a cure for EB. But then one night, sitting in my room, only 13, Courtney had posted that Trip had passed away. EB had come too much for his small body, and he would never get to see his 3rd birthday. Something sparked in me that night, and I made a decision. I couldn't help Trip because it was too late. Why couldn't the doctors do more? So I decided if I couldn't help Trip, I was going to help other children with EB, no matter what it took. Now, I didn't know how to help, but I knew where to start. Courtney, his mother, had thanked Deborah of America many times in her blog for helping her and Trip. Deborah of America is a nonprofit organization that provides information, supplies, and bandages that insurance does not pay for in America to families with children suffering with EB. Now, I decided to track down the executive director, Brett Copeland, at Deborah's annual gala benefit in New York City. I had sent him an email prior to this, but I felt if he could just meet me, that maybe he would give me a chance. And he did just that. Brett gave a teenager an opportunity to help. Slowly but surely, he began to teach me about EB and the daily struggles that children with EB face. One of them included that every single day, children with EB are bathed in a very diluted bleach solution to prevent their wounds from getting infections. But bleach is toxic and can be very harsh on skin. And not a lot of information, not a lot of other experiments have been conducted on other possible solutions that could be better for and less harmful on these children's skin, because these are children. So I decided to look into alternative solutions, and one of them that Brett had mentioned included Nic salt water. Now, bleach is a very harsh chemical called hypochlorite acid. Nic salt water is a solution that consists of hypochlorous acid. I know the endings are very similar. But hypochlorous acid is a naturally produced chemical that our immune system produces to help us fight bacteria. So I thought, well, wouldn't a naturally produced chemical be better than such a harsh chemical like bleach? So I got to work. I went home and I researched different antibacterial solutions along with different skin bacteria, and then made an experiment that would test different and varying concentrations of each solution on its effectiveness at killing bacteria. All I needed at this point was for my middle school to okay the project. And they didn't. They said, no way, we are not letting a 13-year-old work with staph bacteria. So at this point I was like, I wasn't sure what to do next. They said, no, pick another topic. But how could I pick another topic when I thought back to Tripp and all those other kids suffering with EB? So I began to think, where else could I go? Who else could possibly help me? So I decided to reach out to local universities in the area. And I learned to embrace the word no. I emailed tons of different professors, and while I got a lot of no's, and I mean a lot of no's, every single professor that I talked to led me to another person that could possibly help. And then finally, after hearing about my project and children suffering with EB, one professor decided to give me a chance. That one yes is all it takes. Professor Jeffrey Boyd at Rutgers University decided to sponsor my experiment, and thanks to him and his wonderful group of grad students, I was able to go in, grow the bacteria, create varying concentrations of each solution, then test each for its effectiveness. My results proved that hypochlorous acid and the Nic salt water was just as effective as killing bacteria as bleach was, and it would be gentler on children's skin. So by not giving up, by looking for my yes in that sea of no's, finally I was able to accomplish my first project for Deborah. So for any students out there, sometimes you have to look beyond school to do more. Sometimes school has to say no. You can push yourself further. So keep going, and just because you get one no, eventually you will find your yes out there. So while working with Brett, I learned a few more things about him. I learned that he was an EB dad, which explained why he spent so many hours working at Deborah of America. His daughter, Rafi, was born in 2007 in New York City, and when she started blistering all over, even doctors there did not know what was wrong with her. In fact, it took over a week for doctors to realize and diagnose Rafi with EB. And then Brett was told there was no cure, no treatment, and no biotech or pharma interest in such an overwhelming disease. He was given no hope. So Brett got involved with Deborah of America when Rafi was only 3 months old. And from there, he slowly began working more and more to try and find a way to help his daughter. Now, after meeting the ever-so-charming 6-year-old Rafi, I knew my journey with EB was not over yet. There was still more to do, And now the new mission was to raise awareness. Now, most of us know of ALS, or have at least participated in the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Now, the same people who suffer from ALS is the same people who suffer from EB, but EB is mostly unknown. So how was I in fact, the tagline for EB is the worst disease you've never heard of. So how do I take this disease and make it the disease that everyone has heard about? I knew the key could be video storytelling. If a video was to go viral, a video could have a huge impact and educate people about EB. But I didn't know how to get these videos created. So I started reaching out to different advertising and production companies. The challenge this time was one yes was not going to be enough. It takes many yeses to make a video. However, after hearing the story about Trip and Rafi, it was amazing to see how many businessmen and women became inspired and wanted to help the butterfly children. Thanks to the Havas Tonic Advertising Company and the entire crew at Swing Production Company, we were able to create not one, but 3 videos pro bono for Deborah of America. Now, thanks to Brett, my mentor, and his wife, Jackie, we were opening up their home for production. We were able to get started. Now, when Brett, Rafi, and Jackie all sat down, they agreed to show this disease in the most authentic way possible, to show what EB families really go through every single day. This is one of the videos that was made.
It's very, very hard. I was born with the worst disease you've never heard of. Epidermolysis Bullosa, which is a mouthful. No.
You can lean on me.
No. I know Mom doesn't want to hurt me. What got stuck? It hurts. But taking off bandages is hard.
Oh, sorry.
It feels like fire is beating me up. And the sharp dog's teeth digging into me. We have to do it all over again tomorrow and the next day. And every day for the rest of my life.
So thanks to those videos and their emotional impact, they premiered at Deborah's annual gala in New York City just last year and raised $750,000. Amazingly, all those words came from Rafi herself. She came up with those metaphors to describe the pain that she feels every single day. So after these videos were created, I felt confident that awareness of EB would spread all over the United States. But raising awareness for a rare disease is hard, and what's trending one day isn't the next. Medical researchers are joining together from Austria to the UK to the US to try and find a treatment or a cure for EB. They're looking into stem cell treatment and protein replacement along with gene therapy to try and find either a treatment or a cure for EB. While these videos did help, Deborah still faces challenges of raising awareness of a rare disease. And while I have conducted many social media surveys and research media platforms, time was still passing, and new challenges just kept approaching. And even with the past election, it is even harder now for nonprofits to get the funds necessary to continue these programs. I decided to go to a health and wellness conference to get some inspiration. And while there, I even met a new mentor who led me onto the stage today. So go out, and you never know who you're going to meet. I stand up here telling the story of Trip, Rafi, and all those EB warriors, because one businessman from London knew that the cost of doing nothing was too great. And that is why I stand here today. So finally, I think a little bit of my confidence has come back from the States. And I would encourage you to surround yourself with caring individuals who know that you are capable of more. And if you don't have them with you now, go out and find them. And embrace the word no in your life, and go looking for those yeses. And when you are called on to act because the cost of doing nothing is too great, you'll have the confidence to do so. Thank you.